In the last week in this country of ours, there have been a number of cases of domestic violence that have led to the deaths of a number of our sisters across the country, in Chicago, before this in Houston, and in California and other places as well. And this is a sad reality and almost a taboo topic that needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, it is becoming not a very common, but it is, even one is more than enough. And even if it doesn't lead to death, still the amount of abuse taking place within marriages, it needs to be addressed head on. And in this few minutes that I have remaining, I want to just bring up some simple points. First and foremost, brothers and sisters, brothers in particular, and of course abuse takes place both ways, I know this, but statistically, it is women who are abused by their husbands more than the other way. And statistically, it is men who are more battering to the women. And statistically, it is men who murder their partners or ex-partners, their wives or ex-wives when they want to divorce more than the other way around. So this khutbah is not meant to neglect that it goes the other way, but the emphasis should be on the default, and that's going to be the next few minutes that I'm going to do. First and foremost, brothers, men, realize that Allah Azza wa Jal will ask you about your relationship with your spouses and your children. The Prophet ﷺ said in the farewell pilgrimage, Khutbatul Wada', he had a few weeks left to live, and he gave the largest khutbah that he ever gave in his life. It's only 5 paragraphs. Read it, you all know it. An entire paragraph is dedicated to protecting women. 1/5 of the khutbatul wada' is meant for women. And he said to the men, he's speaking to the men, ittaqullaha fin nisa. Be conscious of Allah with regards to your women and wives. Be conscious of Allah because you have taken them in the name of Allah. And you have had relationships with them using the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be asked about them. Be conscious of how you treated them. And in the very final days of his life, one of the last sermons, one of the last hadith that we have mentioned is that he said to the people, fear Allah when it comes to the women. Fear Allah when it comes to the women. We have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More important than the law, more important than any culture or our family and friends. Every single husband is responsible in front of Allah for what happens in the privacy of the house. And a person who raises his hand to beat a defenseless woman is no gentleman. And this is what our Prophet ﷺ himself said when women came to complain about why husbands beating them. He gave a khutbah. You can read the seerah. He gave a khutbah and he said, these women have come complaining about their husbands. These men are not the best men amongst you. That's not the role model. Aisha radiallahu anha said, never in his life did the Prophet ﷺ raise his hand against a woman. Never in his life. So please, brothers, don't quote me books of fiqh and whatnot. The role model is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You want to be a true gentleman? You want to follow the sunnah? Do not raise your hand against a defenseless lady. Point number 2, our sisters who are in this situation, and also all of us here, understand that we need to destigmatize the concept of divorce. One of the main reasons why such women remain in marriages is because they think, log kya kahenge, what will people say? And we need to eliminate this jahili mentality. Your life, dear sister, is more important than what people will say. And your honor is not based upon a marriage to your husband. It's based upon your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you have an abusive husband, if you have a husband that is being an animal to you, then don't worry about what the people will say. The Sharia has granted you the option of divorce. And you go to your local shaykh, you go to your elders, and you tell them the reality so that a divorce can be solved between you. Do not remain in a situation of abuse. When the red line has been crossed, then you do not remain in that situation. And if a lady leaves a marriage because of this, then there should be no stigma on her. There should be no issue of taboo that she is a divorced lady. No, on the contrary, so many of the sahabiyat and the sahaba were divorced and they would marry divorced ladies. We have culturally made divorce into a stigma. Yes, we don't jump to divorce for the slightest reason. I agree. But when there is an abusive situation, when her life is threatened, when she is being beaten, then there is no concept of izzah for the husband and sanctity of the marriage. She should leave that marriage and get a divorce, and any Islamic court or Sharia court is going to give her a divorce because of this issue. Point number 3, brothers and sisters. Point number 3, when it comes to this reality of abuse. All too often, we men are aware that another man amongst us has this nature. We know that he's abusive to his wife, but we don't do anything. And that is honestly a silent approval of that action. What do you expect a lady to do when her husband's treating her this way? Except that his family and his cousins and his friends get involved. It is our collective duty, fard kifaya, when we know somebody is of this nature, that we get involved and prevent this from happening. In fact, there is no stigma in even publicizing this. And people who are like this, abusive in nature, if they propose, we should go and tell that family, oh, this person, he beats his wife, you should know that. You're looking at me as if this is something strange. Hadith is in Bukhari. Fatima bint Qais came to the Prophet ﷺ. She said so and so, she gave the name. So and so gave me the khitbah for nikah. He wants to marry me. Our Prophet ﷺ said, no, he is a man known to beat his wife. This hadith is in Bukhari. Look at our culture contrasted with the Sunnah. He told Fatima, you shouldn't marry this man. This man is an abuser. This man, he's known to beat his wife. Subhanallah. Are we going to be more strict than the Prophet ﷺ? There is no sanctity and honor to a man who is a serial abuser. Such a person, if he proposes, it's our collective duty. Now, I'm not saying there is no salvation. Perhaps a person repents, but at least the past should be known so that he's monitored, so that it cannot lead to, astaghfirullah, a type of murder or something of this nature. And the final point, that again, much can be said, but time is limited. The final point, you know, they have a motto here in this country after 9/11. They said, if you see something, say something. We don't agree with that motto when it comes to stereotyping Muslims and whatnot. It's a completely false motto. But when it comes to marital abuse, it is 100% accurate. If you see something in your family and friends, if you see a woman being abused, if you see your cousin or even your cousin's wife, because generally speaking, who is privy to this type of situation? It is the relatives of the husband. Generally speaking, who covers up the crime? It is the friends and relatives of the male. Brothers, men, be actual men. And if your brother or your cousin or your friend is beating his wife, then where is your manhood when another woman is being violated and you just sit there and turn the other way? If you see something, say something. Get involved. Bring your wife. Have a reconciliation. See what is the reality of the situation. And if the law needs to get involved, then if getting involved saves a woman's life, then wallahi, open up the door and call 911 and say, this man is physically abusing his wife and it cannot remain and continue in this fashion. Muslims, we have a collective duty. Wallahi, it is shameful. It is shameful that story after story is coming in our national media about Fatima so-and-so and Muhammad so-and-so and Aisha so-and-so. Do we not have a sense of ghira of the religion? How can we allow this to continue? So collectively, brothers and sisters, we need to step up to our responsibility and monitor our family and friends. And if we know of such a case, do your best to become actively involved and minimize, get involved, make sure that this doesn't get to the point of it becoming un-Islamic or haram. Yes, arguments happen, I'm not speaking about that. But abuse is not an argument. Raising your hand and leaving a bruise or broken bones, that's not an argument. So when you see the red line has been crossed and the Sharia does not allow this type of abuse, then you cannot remain silent. So if you see something, definitely don't just say something, but get involved. And collectively, final point, brothers and sisters, as a community, we have to have domestic shelters for women who are suffering abuse. One of the main reasons why such women remain, they say, where can I go? I don't have a place. My family's back home. He's treating me this way. And that is why it is fard kifaya on us to have women's shelters, to open up places where when we know of a case of abuse, we can tell the sister and her children, look, you can go there for a few days, we'll take care of you until we figure out, what is the next step. And so large communities like Dallas and other major cities, definitely we need to have multiple such shelters of our faith community. Wallahi, it is sad, and I've had cases like this where our sisters go to Christian shelters, where our sisters go to other shelters where hijab is an issue, veiling is an issue, whatnot. Why? Don't we have enough wealth to take care of our own? So this is another tactic that needs to be done. And the bottom line, we're raising awareness. I can't give all the solutions now, but we have to raise awareness and stop this topic from being taboo. The sanctity of our sisters' lives is paramount here. And there is no izzah for a criminal. We don't cover up the faults of a criminal. More important is to protect the innocent women.